Wars throughout the 20th century are revolutionary events. They're not just, blood and destruction. They're also revolutionary events. It's not a coincidence that women got the vote after World War One and after World War Two. There's a clear connection between war and revolutionary changes within societies. And the same is going to happen in Ukraine. The Ukraine that emerges from this war when Ukraine's victorious will be a Ukraine which is completely and firmly ensconced inside Europe and outside Putin's Russian world. The oligarchs are defanged. Many of them have lost their citizenship. Others have fled or are just simply not important. Akhmetov has basically lost a huge proportion of his money-making and corrupt activities in the Donbass. The Donbass is destroyed. His biggest plant was in Mariupol, Azovstal, that's gone. Oligarchs are also selling their TV channels. Akhmetov is the first to do that. So again, that's declining influence. So I think Ukraine, after the war is ended, is going to be a post-oligarch country. Zelensky, let's remember, is the first Ukrainian president who did not emerge from the Wild West 1990s. So he's never been accused of making money illegally. He's self-made person. He's not an oligarch. And there's been no evidence he's been using his position as president to make himself money, which is, again, the first time that's the case. Also, let's remember that the resilience and the vitality and energy of Ukrainian society. The volunteer movement in Ukraine is literally massive. This is why I call it a people's war. It's massive in all sorts of ways in terms of supporting refugees, IDPs, supporting the Ukrainian military, supporting the territorial defense forces. There are countless examples of this, children of all ages, from the ages of 5 upwards, are standing in Ukrainian towns, playing music, singing songs to raise money for the Ukrainian military. It's just incredible. And let's remember, none of this type of activity exists in Russia. Russia does not have a civil society. Russia does not have resilience, societal resilience like Ukraine has. And that is why it's very difficult, if not impossible, for Russia to destroy and occupy Ukraine. Because the Russian KGB mentality does not understand that this isn't just the Ukrainian military they're fighting Ukrainian society, who are standing behind these. 200,000 territorial defense forces. These are civilians, many of them. And they're being fed, supplied, yes, by the government, but also by other organizations. Many private companies are, instead of making, for example, on the BBC today, there was a report of a small company in Kiev that used to make handbags, is now making Ukrainian flags. And this is all over the place. They've shifted to military production. A lot of them are making bulletproof vests, uniforms. And so people are volunteering. That volunteerism that we know very well from the Ukrainian diaspora is evident throughout Ukraine. You've also got an incredible mixing of people from different regions of Ukraine, which is very good for national integration. A huge number of people from East Ukraine have moved west. The population of Transcarpathia has increased 3 times in its size. And this means that West Ukrainians are intermingling and are employing and are housing East Ukrainians. These East Ukrainians are telling them about what they suffered and how they hate Russians. West Ukrainians are telling them, well, we told you so. We told you so. So that also is having an impact. So that whole area is going to lead to a very different Ukraine after the war ends. It's going to lead to a more democratic country, more empowered civil society and society in general, a country without oligarchs, and the example set by Volodymyr Zelensky. A lot of people had their doubts about him prior to the war, including myself. Opinion polls prior to the invasion showed that most Ukrainians had doubts whether Zelensky could be a good commander-in-chief. Well, we were all wrong. In a war situation, you either rise up to the occasion or you fail. Thank God Britain had Churchill in World War II. Thank God Ukraine had Zelensky when the war began. He's done a good job than even probably Poroshenko would have done. I mean, I always liked Poroshenko, but Zelensky is photogenic. He's good with media. I'm sure it was his idea to put destroyed Russian military equipment on the Khreshchatyk rather than having a military parade, which is not possible. And he's been great at promoting Ukraine's case throughout the world through video links, through speeches to parliament, speeches to individuals. Yesterday, Ukraine had a huge number of Western dignitaries in Kiev at the Crimean Platform Summit, including Boris Johnson from my own Britain. So I think Zelensky has risen to the occasion, and because he's the only Ukrainian leader who's not from the 90s, who's the new face, is the only new face on the block, as it were, that's why he's still very popular. Now, that could change, of course, after the elections and it's not for certain that somebody who wins a war becomes post-war leader. Churchill won World War II, but he was defeated in 1945 in an election. So we'll see. But certainly Zelensky is important because also of his origins. He's not only Jewish, but he's an Eastern Ukrainian Russian speaker. You can imagine how that's going to change, and it has changed in opinion polls, Western Ukrainian attitudes to Russian speakers. Many West Ukrainians prior to the invasion had doubts about whether Russian-speaking Ukrainians were loyal. In the Ukrainian diaspora, that was widespread. Well, we have to say that we were all wrong. Russian-speaking Ukrainians have shown their loyalty to Ukraine, and that's been exemplified by Volodymyr Zelensky. So he certainly will go down in history on the same level as Leonid Kravchuk, who brought Ukraine its independence in 1991. So on that note, I'll say Slava Ukraini and cheers.